Hello, I'm the director, and I'm coming at you with over 20 years of film experience. Hey, have you ever wanted to see Nicolas Cage's head on fire? Don't bother denying it, we've all wanted to. We just wanted to see it happen for real instead of the horribly cliched movie that is Ghostwriter. It's a shame when you realize a movie you liked when you were younger is actually equivalent to something you leave in the toilet. This movie was the first to be released in 2007, a year that gave us not one, not two, but 3 disappointing superhero films. A rock-bottom year, in my opinion. And while this movie is not the worst that came out that year, oh, and don't worry, we'll get to the other 2 soon, it's still a bad movie in terms of being a film, and a film based on a comic book. So let's see how one of Marvel's badass anti-heroes got turned into one bad ass of a film. With Marvel Studios' Ghostwriter. The film opens up at a local carnival where we see our main hero, Johnny Blaze, and his father, Barton Blaze, are performing a stunt show. Barton lectures Johnny about showing off to impress Roxanne before he coughs out a lung. I hope it's not a terminal illness that'll cause Johnny to make some kind of satanic deal. Later, Roxanne randomly tells Johnny that she is being sent away because her father thinks he's a bad influence. Oh, 'cause obviously the allure of rides, prizes, and food is really just a trap to corrupt the youth of America. So what does our hero do?
We'll jump on the bike and just keep going.
But what about your dad? What about the show?
Hold on. I think that line was, yes, what are you going to do about a job? But Johnny ends that line of questioning by kissing her and heads back to what I assume is his mobile home instead of doing what he said 30 seconds ago and finds out that his dad has lung cancer. Big flippin' surprise. Which causes him to go to the tent to fix up his bike. Look, he's so broken up, he's pretending the last scene didn't happen. While Johnny is busy distracting himself, the devil, played by Peter Fonda, appears in what is probably one of the coolest entrances I've seen in a movie. Johnny is so distraught over his father dying that he doesn't question why he can see his breath, or why the third doctor from hell is in the area so late claiming he can cure his dad's cancer after finding out about it himself a minute ago, or why he had to look to the left during that particular lightning flash. Instead, scoffs at the devil for saying he'll take his soul as payment before actually agreeing to the deal. Ow!
Oh, that'll do just fine.
You know what? Your guess is as good as mine as to what he did to Johnny between these 2 scenes. Johnny wakes up to find that his dad is better, or as both characters said,
But I feel healthy as a horse. Healthy as a horse.
Subtle. What follows is a scene that could only be surprising to those who weren't paying attention. Barton jumps the ramp too late, crashes into the ring of fire, and lands on the opposite ramp while Mephistopheles watches in plain view of the audience, but goes unnoticed. Johnny rides away before being flung by his bike into the crossroads. Mephistopheles revives him, stating that Johnny belongs to him now.
You're mine, Johnny Blaze.
So to spare Roxanne the pain of whatever it is he's protecting her from, he leaves her in the pouring rain. What a bunghole! At least had the decency to end the relationship on a positive note. Anyway, we flash forward, I estimate, about 40 years, and Johnny Blaze, now played by Nicolas Cage, is now a famous stuntman who is able to survive stunts that kill even the most daring of devils. Although it is his own fault for closing his eyes halfway through the jump. After he's revived from the world's worst emergency response team, and rides off after a half-assed lecture from his best friend Mac, the antagonist Blackheart, played by Wes Bentley, arrives in typical biblical fashion. Clouds in the shapes of skulls, and
fire and brimstone coming down from the skies.
And faster than you can say, "Let there be light," the weather clears up and is never mentioned by the bikers that Blackheart interrogates with the touch of death. Meanwhile, back at Johnny's Batcave, Mac tries to convince Blaze to take the cars out in tomorrow's stunts, where he'll jump the length of a football field. To which Blaze responds,
I'll think about it.
I know the scene was meant to add a sense of depth to the character, that Blaze is feeling guilt over being responsible for his dad's death, but it's brushed aside by the whole, I'm looking for a sign. How about all the demonic pictures you have in your loft, or the not-so-subtle skeleton cartoon? Anyway, we go back to the bar where we find out that the reason Blackheart and his band of Matrix Twilight rejects are walking the earth killing people is to find the contract of San Venganza, which he plans to use to take over the world. Moving on, so the day of Johnny's big son arrives and he mentally prepares by...
You can't live in fear.
chanting his mantra.
You can't live in fear.
What exactly are you afraid of? We never find out because the plot line of convenience rears its ugly head when Roxanne shows up to do an interview. This next scene was in the trailer and it came across as funny. But when we see the whole interview as well as the reactions, it just comes across as weird and awkward.
Yeah.
So Roxanne leaves and Johnny replaces the cars with 6 Black Hawk helicopters, stating that his father thought it would be a cool stunt. Yeah, 1 helicopter, but not 6! Mac does nothing to stop him. In fact, he just goes along with it. And Johnny, unsurprisingly, makes the jump and rides off.
Where's he going?
Where do you think? He's able to catch up to Roxanne's news van despite having a good 30-minute head start and going 55 miles an hour, convinces Roxanne to go out on a date with him, and manages to not get yelled at by the people of the traffic jam he caused.
Can you please sign my sister's book?
Did he just say, will you sign my sister's boob?
Can you please sign my sister's book?
Subtitles, please?
Can you please sign my sister's book?
Okay. Moving on. Blackheart and his trio are momentarily halted by Mephistopheles and they argue 10 feet away, even though they talk like they're right next to each other. And then we get a little bit of information.
Father.
Anyone have the 7 daggers of Megiddo? Actually, we don't need them. No. After that scene, which only served as a filler, we see Roxanne sitting in a restaurant with no Johnny in sight. This is the cliched left alone at dinner scenario. Good God, the only thing that would make this more cliched would be that she gets drunk and asks the waiter if she's pretty.
You think I'm pretty, right?
But big surprise! Johnny doesn't show up because he's still chanting his useless mantra in front of the mirror.
You deserve a second chance. She's a sign.
You are a good actor. You are a good actor. But oh no! The devil summons him outside where they exchange some boring banter and some pointless Photoshop effects before telling Johnny that he will return his soul if he finds and destroys Blackheart. Johnny appropriately responds,
Find him yourself.
Yeah, you found him 5 minutes ago, why didn't you do it then?
It doesn't work like that.
How? I repeat, you found him 5 minutes ago. You could have easily dragged his ass back to hell and sent him to timeout. What was preventing you? You know, for someone who's supposed to be evil incarnate, you're kind of a wuss. So Mephistopheles remote starts his bike, which results in things flying, melting, and bursting into flames. You know, when that fire trail starts, I keep expecting Johnny to end up in the year 1955. Meanwhile, Blackheart and his gang arrive at a railway loading station. Why?
There was a cemetery here.
Oh, okay. Doesn't really scream cemetery, does it?
They moved him.
Ah, yes, that makes sense, right, yeah. Who's they?
St. Michael's Church. They're in charge of the whole thing.
I hope they remove the bodies, because that happened once and it did not end well. So Johnny arrives, and finally we get to see the first appearance of the Ghostwriter, and in typical Cage fashion. I'll bet you're thinking that because Ghostwriter showed up that things are now going to pick up, right? Nope. Ryder ends up getting his ass kicked twice before actually destroying one of the mooks. This is what you can expect for the rest of the action scenes, folks. Also, care to take a guess what's so familiar about these quotes?
Back to hell. You're going down. Time to clear the air.
If you haven't figured it out yet, here's a little hint.
Have mercy.
I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy.
That's right. I went there.
Good night.
So, after that unimpressive fight scene, what does our hero do with the rest of his night? Turn his bike into the Hell Cycle, which I'll admit, looks freaking awesome. And takes care of a punk in one of the coolest but funniest sequences in the movie.
Look into my eyes.
He doesn't have eyes! He's a skull! Those are eye holes! But he can't say that because I'm betting most of the older viewers would be thinking of this scene.
Or I will gouge out your eyeballs and skull fuck you!
The writer shows him a drug trip from hell, which makes him see ash and cinders for the rest of his life, and leaves him lying on the ground. He rides off into the sunrise. I can't believe I said that. And stops at a cemetery. Nah. He transforms back into Johnny and collapses at the convenient spot of his father's grave.
Morning, bonehead.
Johnny wakes up as thirsty as a camel and meets the final character in this movie, Caretaker, played by Sam Elliott. And I gotta say, his introduction is kind of funny. I don't know many movies that Sam was in. I know he was previously in Hulk, but a friend of mine pointed something out to me and it just makes this scene hilarious. Look at the expression on his face! He looks like he molested Blaze while he was out cold. Don't believe me? Well, listen to this bit of dialogue.
And to answer your other questions, last night did happen. It wasn't a dream. And it will happen again.
How is there not a meme of this? Come on!
It doesn't work like that.
Anyway, Caretaker stitches up Johnny's stab wound from the punk, while we find out that the Ghostwriter is the Devil's Bounty Hunter, can inflict all the pain that an evil person has done back at them, and only changes at night when evil people are around? Okay. No. You might want to explain to us earlier on how that makes sense, instead of waiting to tell us this halfway through the movie. Caretaker also mentions about a previous Ghostwriter and a town called San Venganza. What does this have to do with the story? Well, I purposely left out the prologue because there was simply no point to it. It already reveals to you what's at stake, even though we keep hearing about it throughout the film, and it ruins the surprise that Caretaker was the previous Ghostwriter. This movie treats you like an idiot. If they had omitted the prologue, cut right to the action of Blaze being the Ghostwriter, spliced in with a few flashbacks, you know, like in Blade, maybe we would have more character development and a concrete plot. But instead we get this.
Where's your head at, man?
So later that night, Blaze starts diving into his books to find any information he can about Faustian deals, and reads that he can actually control the spirit to produce fire, which turns out to be pointless because Roxanne arrives! I swear this scene drives me crazy. She comes back to apologize even though she has every right to be mad at him, acts like they were still dating after only reuniting after 1 day. 1 day! And she ends up kissing him. Then we get the holy grail of cliches.
You wouldn't believe me anyway.
You didn't even try to convince her, you dumbass! Why didn't you do that little fire-bending trick you said you were gaining control over after only doing it once? Even at 17, I knew how this scene was going to end. Roxanne leaves, then shit happens. Called it! After the lamest good cop, bad cop scene is over, Blaze is thrown into a cell that is full of criminals.
I wonder what will happen.
Ryder's jacket gets torn, so he sees that the skinheads will fit him by glancing at his crotch. Okay. He gets his motorcycle back and loses the cops by riding on water. Oh, God. Meanwhile, Blackheart... Oh, hey, I almost forgot about him. Is seen at a church where... Wait. Didn't the caretaker say they couldn't come onto hallowed ground?
They can't come onto hallowed ground.
Thought so. Then this scene absolutely had no point other than to increase the body count. Ghostwriter catches up to the group, but the pale Bob Marley lookalike confronts him, resulting in a ripoff from Batman Forever. Just as the next fight scene is about to start, a police chopper interrupts them, causing Johnny to lasso it. Maybe Ryder will throw the chopper and it'll crash, huh?
You're pissing me off.
Okay, sorry.
Texas's finest, everyone! So Ryder finally faces off against the air demon, and it seems like this battle could go on for a while, right? No. All Ghostwriter had to do was cover his chain in flames. God, I can't believe I said that. Spin it around like a fan, and apparently the demon can't fly away. Very unimpressive. With one more down, Ghostwriter rides down the building, lands in front of the cops, spots Roxanne's cleavage, causing his skull to switch to a passive blue flame and walk towards her. Cleavage. You know, I am both surprised and disappointed that they didn't hit Roxanne. I mean, she was right in front of them. How did they miss? Unfortunately, Blackheart now knows that Roxanne is Ghostwriter's weakness. Oh. Morning comes and oh, big shocker! Blaze doesn't have any bullet wounds. God, this movie just continues to make its own rules, only to break them 5 minutes later.
Where's your head at, man?
Blaze rides to Caretaker and learns more about Sam Venganza and about a man named Carter Slade, who we already figured out 20 minutes ago was the Caretaker. Stop teasing us! There's absolutely no point in dragging this on! So Roxanne heads to Johnny's loft looking for him, only to run into Mac. She ends up looking through his books, only to be captured by Blackheart. Yawn. Johnny arrives, barely mourns over Max's corpse.
Mac.
Asshole. Gets his ass kicked again, this time by Blackheart, and forced to bring the contract to San Venganza or he will kill Roxanne. Nope, I don't see a downside. One dull surprise after another. Turns out the contract was inside Caretaker's shovel the whole time. And he reveals to Johnny, because we've known since he appeared, that he is Carter Slade. So I know what you're thinking. Wow, 2 Ghostwriters? Maybe we'll finally get that awesome final battle! If you honestly think that, then you haven't been paying attention to this.
Stick to the shadows.
If you're still a masochist and plan on watching the rest of this movie, I suggest you watch it with this in front of the screen. Blaze finally confronts the water demon, and actually, I think he defeats him faster than the air demon by boiling him. Blaze and Blackheart face off, just as in any traditional western. And he threatens to kill Roxanne if he changes. Johnny complies and brings out the contract, and I'm not kidding, Blackheart actually lets her go before he even gets the contract. As if that wasn't stupid enough, Blaze actually hands the contract over. But then he transforms and we get another boring fight that ends too soon because the sun starts to rise. Blackheart gets the contract and is essentially gang raped by the evil souls and changes into what a real demon should look like. But wait! It turns out that Blaze can still change into the Ghostwriter if he's in the shadows. Why? Convenience! Johnny eventually leads him to a rundown church where he uses the penance there on Blackheart because now his body contains 1,000 evil souls. So now the movie's over, right? No! Mephistopheles reappears and agrees to take the power of the Ghostwriter away. And what does Blaze do?
No. I'm gonna own this curse. And I'm gonna use it against you.
Are you high? How exactly are you going to do that? But it seems to work because Mephistopheles can't do anything about it. He's the fucking devil. All he has to do is say, "Too bad, bitch," and it's gone. So Blaze and Roxanne share a heartfelt goodbye, if you could call it that, where we see them kiss under the same tree from the beginning before he rides off and the credits finally roll. Finally. And that, everyone, was Ghostwriter. The movie that pretty much told us that 2007 was going to be a horrible year. Is it horrible? No, it's just bad. The acting is flat. Story is as cliched as any sitcom episode. Plot has more holes in it than Swiss cheese, and the fight scenes are short, disengaging, and anticlimactic. Now there's bad news, and then there's worse news. The bad news is there is an extended edition that, while it does develop the father-son relationship, it makes the villain even less threatening than he was before, and still doesn't fill any holes in the story. And the worst news is, there's actually a sequel and it did worse than this! If you're planning on starting a comic book film collection, and you're a completist like me, then go ahead and get Ghostwriter. But do yourself a favor, and don't get the Blu-ray version. You'll save your money, and half a headache. Until next time, I'm the director, and this is Lights, Camera, Action.
The sky